So people were coming to me when my abilities opened up most people want about a relationship. Am I going to get married? Am I going to get divorced? What's with this guy? So I was divinely led to create a 7-week online program called the Relationship Mastery Program. I teach them how energy works, how to get in touch with their soul. I only work with one person in the relationship because there's always a leader and a follower. And it only takes one person to make or break a situation. For every action, there's an equal or greater reaction. When you change, everything changes. So everyone that went through the program, their lives became absolutely amazing. But I discovered that they were all learning the same 5 lessons. Hence the reason that I wrote the book, All is Fair in Love and Karma. And it lays out, it's 5 steps to relationship mastery. And the first lesson that everyone has to learn is self-worth.
Wouldn't it be great to understand why we have to lose our precious loved ones and how we can grow from that to live a full and loving life? Well, that's just the tip of what we're exploring today on The Beautiful Side of Grief with my guest and psychic medium, teacher, best-selling author, and relationship expert, June Edward. June has been dealing with the unseen since childhood, though it took an NDE at the tender age of 27, which allowed her to experience firsthand the other side. And believe it or not, she had a choice as to whether she wanted to stay or come back again, and she chose to come back. So following that experience, her exceptional mediumship gifts exploded. She was dubbed the Massachusetts medium, regularly selling out group sessions, and June is particularly skilled in working with angels, guides, and departed souls to give closure and help to our loved ones and healing on both sides. And I absolutely love that. What a great mission. In addition, she helps us understand and appreciate what our journeys are all about so we can truly embrace this life we have or change it up. She's worked on missing person cases as well as consulting with well-known paranormal groups and authors, and is a valued and sought-after relationship coach with her latest best-selling book and #1 in 4 categories, All's Fair in Love and Karma, 5 Steps to Relationship Mastery, helping people understand that there is a purpose, there is a lesson, and there is a reason for everything that happens in your life. Yep, including those big mistakes we make. So let's meet June Edward. Welcome to The Beautiful Side of Grief, June.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Fabulous to have this opportunity to speak with you, and congratulations on reaching #1 with your book and having it as a bestseller, because it truly has got a lot of really wonderful insights for anybody who wants to check it out and read it.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay. So we're going to, yeah, absolutely. Reason to be. So we're going to get into your book a little bit later, but I'd love to explore with you now initially what the abilities were that you had as a child and how experiencing those impacted you.
So what I've learned is that when we reincarnate and we come through as a child, we still have a lot of the memories that we've had prior to being born here. And everybody's had a child that they've seen standing in a crib and acting like it's talking to somebody or reaching for someone that you don't see. They still see the souls from the other side when they're that little and not really developed. So as they grow, they start to lose that. Well, my first memory was probably about the age of 3 or 4, and I was lying in my bed, and I thought I heard my parents calling me. So I got out of bed, I went into their bedroom, and they're fast asleep. It wasn't my parents. So I went back into my bed and lied down, and then I started seeing the faces around my room, and it scared me. So I pulled the covers up over my head, and then the sun started to come up. So I was starting to see shadows. They were like leaning over my bed, trying to put their face, between me and the sheet. It was very scary as a child. And as much as possible, I tried to block it out. And then as I got older and I got to be school age, I would tell the other kids, who I'm talking to, what I'm hearing, what I'm seeing, and what was going to happen next. And you really get labeled a freak real quick. So you stop
Yeah.
that fast. You stop doing that. So I was a really nervous child. I bit my nails and I stuttered and I was a wreck because, I thought other people saw what I saw, but didn't understand how I knew things were going to happen when they did. And as I get older, up until 10 years old, I was still seeing full figure apparitions I had a woman that was keeping me company every night doing the dishes. And I asked my brother who she was because I assumed he saw her. And he started laughing and said she was the one that was murdered in the house by her husband. And it scared me so much that she never came back. I know she felt it because we're all energy. We feel the energy from each other. Walk into a wedding and you feel that uplifting energy, and then walk into a funeral and you feel that depressed energy, right? Everything in the world is energy. So after that, I really blocked it out the best that I could. They would still come to me if they passed and they knew anyone in my family or they knew me. They would immediately come to me after they passed away. And I would tell my family and they'd be like, "How are you talking about? I just talked to him last night." And sure enough, they'd find out that the person had passed away.
So you essentially shut down your gifts, didn't you?
I tried to block them. Yeah. The end of the day, you are the one that's in charge. I'm one of 8 children and I have 3 children as well. My 3 children are all boys and they have a lot of ability, but they block it because they don't want people to know, especially in the careers that they have. I have a sister that's 10 years older and she has a lot of ability and she's afraid of it. So she wants no part of understanding it or delving into it. So I tell people, everybody's born with psychic ability and mediumship ability because I taught many, many classes and everyone when went through my classes had both abilities. But it's like playing a piano. Some people sit down and play chopsticks. Some people really apply themselves to it and can really, learn a couple of good songs, right? Other people want to aspire to it, so they really put themselves into it full-fledged and they can be a concert pianist. And I was the child prodigy that sits down and plays Mozart. My abilities have always been very, very strong. And then when I passed to the other side at the age of 27 and came back, I attribute my ability to be able to connect to the other side so quickly to quantum physics. Quantum physics explains that, the speed of light. And when our soul, which is pure energy, goes into that speed of light, you're traveling at that high vibration. And then when I came back and it went back into my body, my vibration is still much higher than most people's. So I believe that's one of the reasons that I can connect so quickly.
Yeah, that's a great explanation. I love that analogy. So you had the knowing that you were going to die before you reached 30, didn't you?
I did. So when you get in touch with your soul, and that's one of the things that I teach people how to do, as I teach them how to get in touch with their soul, because that's who you truly are. You're not the suit that's sitting here. We're the soul that's inside. We're the energy. And that's what lives on when we lose the suit is your energy. That's your soul. And your soul knows everything. So if you're actually in touch with your soul, you know the answers to everything. You just have to tap into them. So yes, when I had injured myself, I knew that if I went in for the surgery, I was going to die. And I put it off for 5 years until I had no choice. And sure enough, when I went in to have the surgery the night before, they had done an MRI test with dye, and I was allergic to the dye. And I told them before I had it that I thought I was allergic to it because I'd had it once before, and they just poo-pooed it off. And I'm like, what do I know? I'm 27, right? I'm not the doctor. Sure enough, as soon as they gave it to me, I coded.
Why do you think you needed to have that experience of a near-death experience?
So I don't necessarily know that I needed to have the experience, because what I've learned is that we write this plan, just like you make a Monopoly game up. You write your life plan. And some people that have had very difficult, challenging lives write exits in. And that was an exit that I could have taken. But when I got to the other side, they told me point blank, it wasn't my time, but I could stay if I wanted to. It was my choice. And that's how I know that it was an exit that I wrote into my plan, because my life had been very challenging, very, very difficult life. And I just, I got less than 1% of the people that have a near-death experience. I never considered it near-death because I know I died. But scientists call it a near-death experience because they can't quantify it yet. That's why it's called that. But less than 1% of the people that have that happen to them make it to the level that I made it to and had a full life review. And it's just amazing.
So share with us. What was, I know, I'm just going to ask you to try and put it in words.
If you could take a warm blanket of love on the snowiest of days and just wrap yourself in it, it's just amazing on the other side. It truly, truly is, because that's all there is love and knowledge. And those are the two things you take with you, and you access the knowledge of all your lifetimes when you're there. It's just incredible. It really is.
You know, my listeners will know this very well because I've mentioned it several times, and that after my daughter Tal died, she wrapped me in a blanket of love. That's what I felt like. I felt like I was cocooned in this blanket of love for 6 months.
So she was next to you then for you to feel that. She was right next to you. I mean, they're near us all the time. Yeah. All you have to do is say her name. Boom. They're there in a second. In a second.
Yeah.
But for around you like that, you're feeling what it feels like on the other side. Yeah, it's just incredible.
Yeah. And she just gave me this incredible experience. And also the knowing about soul contracts. Like I had heard of them before, probably hadn't really looked into it too much. But as soon as she died, like I knew that she had died, she came to me, let me know. And I knew that I had signed up to that, and she had also. So we were both aware on some level that this was going to happen.
So we're all here for specific reasons, okay? We plan our life, like I said. We're here to pay back karmic debts that we owe someone else, collect on the karmic debts that are owed to us. We're here for vacation because you don't have a body on the other side for a long period of time. You can't smell, you can't taste, you can't have sex, you can't do all those things without a body, right? And we're here to really have some fun and to help each other. Those are the reasons that we come here. And people forget that when they get here, because honestly, it's like you're an actor in a play. When they came out with that movie Avatar, I'm like, oh my God, this is reality. That's reality. When you go to sleep at night, your vibration actually rises. We're in 3D. The lowest level of heaven that I can go back and forth to is 5D. And our dream state is the 4D. So if you're not in touch with your soul during the day to be able to talk to them from the other side and get your messages from the angels, etc., the only thing they can do is lower their vibration and wait till you go to sleep and meet you in that little sandwich space, that marshmallow of 4D when you're sleeping. And you'll know it's a visit and not a dream because it feels real and you wake up right away. So that's a visit. That is not a dream. There's a difference.
Tell me what it's like to be able to be that conduit for loved ones between the one that has passed and the one that's still here.
You know, it's a really emotional experience. And it comes back to me very quickly because I had a woman today that I haven't done anything like that in quite some time. I've worked on missing person cases and murders and things like that, but it's been a while since I've done any. And I had a woman contact me today that was trying to locate 2 people. And the first one, I had to explain to her that if they passed away and they're a ghost stuck here, I may not be able to tell whether or not they're dead or alive because it's a different vibration. It's the same vibration of a living person if they're a ghost that's stuck here. But once they go into the light, the vibration is so high, it's amazing. So I can immediately tell that they've passed to the other side. And the person came through for me even before I got on the phone with the woman, because I always meditate and ask for anyone to come through that's for her highest and best to help her that she may be looking for. And sure enough, he came through. I described him. She said, oh yeah, absolutely. That's what he looked like when he was younger. And because they'll come through to me either the way they looked prior to passing or the way they thought that it was their best life here. So he came through to me the way it was his best life here, but I could tell right away that he had passed and not gone into the light because of the things that he was saying to me. And he was afraid to go into the light, basically, is what he was telling me. He thought he was going to be punished. That's why there's a lot of ghosts that are stuck around here, because they're afraid. If, they're afraid they've done something wrong, they may go to hell. Especially a lot of religions will teach you, no, you're going to burn in hell constantly. So they're afraid, and they stay behind if they've let someone down. And a lot of people that have drug and alcohol addictions, when they pass, feel that they've let someone down and are afraid to go into the light. So I told him that he's not going to be punished. He's not going to be judged. And his parents are both waiting for him. And as soon as I told him that, he immediately went into the light. And he came back about 5 seconds later and thanking me and thanking his aunt that brought him through, and was so happy to have seen his parents on the other side. And then I'm trying to get information out of him. And he's like, he doesn't want to talk. Now he wants to go back and see his parents because he's been stuck down here and he hadn't gone into the light. And it's just amazing there. So he doesn't want to stay here talking. He wanted to go right back.
Which is why I made the comment right in my intro about you having that choice, and you chose to come back.
So I won't lie. It was a really, really tough decision. And the only reason that I came back was for my children. I had 2 children at the time. They were my love and joy of my life. And I knew that I was supposed to be here for them. That was the biggest part of my plan of being here. And that was the reason that I came back. And as soon as I made that decision, I was back in my body in a second. And then I ended up having my 3rd child after that.
Wow. And you mentioned having a life review. Tell us a little bit about what that involved.
So it's kind of like, so I read Akashic Records as well, which is the book of life. Everyone has a book of life. And it's very similar to that. When I read someone's Akashic Records, I go into a side room with your book and open it, and it's like a 3D movie pops out in front of me. And this was very similar. It was like a movie just going by, and I'm watching all of the people in my life that I'd loved, that had been kind to me, all the events in my life that had meant something, that had brought me joy. These are the things that you're reviewing.
Oh, wow. And did it let you know what your course going forward should be? Like what you should be investing your energy in?
No. Other than I came back from my children, no, not at all. So you have to remember that everything that you go through in life is a breadcrumb. It's very easy. That's why I say hindsight is 20/20, right? You can look back at your life and see how everything in your life has been connected to the next thing, the next thing, the next thing, right? Everything leads you to something else. And they can't give you the end game because you're going to miss the whole middle part. That's your journey. That's what makes you who you are, right? It teaches you what it is you came here to learn and gives you the purpose that you're here for. So if I hadn't gone through all the struggles that I've gone through, I wouldn't be able to relate to the people that come to me for help. I wouldn't be. There's very few things that I have not gone through in my life that I can't connect to someone and help them.
I 100% agree. That's why I think I've had all the experiences I've had, because it enables me just to connect on so many different levels and have an understanding and compassion.
Yeah. I found that the people with the more difficult lives seem to have the higher purposes in life. And, I used to think, oh, everybody has a special purpose. Everybody has, but they don't. There are some people that are here and they've had one partner their whole life. They've had one job their whole life. They've lived in the same house the whole life because they didn't come here for that kind of experience. Yeah. They wanted a simple existence and they got it.
Sometimes I wish that I'd actually written a part of that into my life.
I used to say the same thing. I had a very difficult life and I used to say the exact same thing. And I used to say, oh, geez, for everything that I've been through in life, I should hit the lottery, right? Well, you know what I did? I hit the lottery just by being able to access my gifts and know my purpose and love what I do. I absolutely love what I do to help people. I absolutely love it. To be able to, help that woman today and help the guy on the other side, the soul on the other side that was stuck here, that hadn't gone into the light, to help him as well. So that's very fulfilling for me. It's not my purpose here is not to hunt down ghosts and bring them all into the light. But if I'd happen to come across one that I can move into the light, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I've moved many into the light, but they're lower vibrational entities. And my calling is to work with the ones that are already in the light, that have gone to heaven already. But if I run across them and they haven't gone yet, I absolutely bring them into the light.
Now, you mentioned about that guy being particularly afraid to go into the light because of fear of being judged and what different belief systems are ingrained in us and different religions, what they tell us is going to happen. How do you deal with the skeptics out there? Do you deal with them? Do you bother with them? Or
that think I'm not authentic or doing something? I don't care. That's not my it's not my problem. What anybody thinks of me is their business, not mine.
Yeah, I love that.
Doesn't
I love
matter
that
to me.
answer.
It's not, and it's not my purpose to try to prove to someone that heaven exists. They're going to find out when they die. They'll find everything that I've said is true, and they'll know as soon as they die.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that.
And they may find out earlier. I found that a lot of people that I come in contact with have some type of paranormal experience fairly shortly after finding me. Because if they're not listening to me and I'm trying to help them, something from the universe will change that so that they will start listening.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what it's all about, is finding out our purpose, isn't it? And so how do we find our purpose? How do we know what we're being guided towards to do in this lifetime?
So if you get in touch with your soul, again, and that's what I teach people how to do, because that's who you truly are, and you learn to listen to it, they will guide you. And I also teach people how to talk with angels, because angels are a separate race. They were never human. Their entire existence is to help us. But there's rules no matter where you go, and there's jobs no matter where you go, because there has to be purpose in heaven as well. And they cannot help you unless you ask. That's their rule. Yep. So if you lost something, ask St. Anthony. He'll help you find it. I could tell you story after story. I keep him quite busy. And when before you meditate to get in touch with your soul, you always protect yourself. When I first started training for all this, I spent 1.5 years training before I actually started doing readings. Because I needed to know who I'm engaging with, and I needed to learn how to turn my abilities on and off like a light switch, or I would go crazy. You cannot be on 24/7. But I thought I wasn't worthy of asking Archangel Michael to protect me. He must be really busy and, have other things to do and blah, blah, blah. And he literally told me that I am worthy and that he can be millions of places at once because he moves so quickly. So absolutely ask.
I know, because we think about it in the way we think, yet it's a whole different realm and it's a whole different space and energy. Yeah, exactly.
So it's kind of like, so I had a friend of mine whose mom was quite old and she didn't want her to die. And she was in very poor health and she was in pain, and still she was hanging on because the family didn't want her to go. And finally I said, it's just being mean. I said, what if I told you that, when she dies, she goes and lives at Disney World, okay? And she gets to do the rides and have fun and just eat cotton candy. I mean, think about it, right? Well, that's kind of what it's like. When you go to heaven, you don't have the pains from the body. You don't have the body. You go where you want. You do what you want. You see what you want. It's absolutely amazing. So it's very selfish of us to want to keep holding people here instead of allowing them to go into such an amazing place.
Yeah, that's a good point to make. What is the purpose behind miscarriages and losing a child after only a few days? I mean, that seems unbearably cruel, doesn't it?
So I was pregnant with triplets, my first one, after having a very hard time getting pregnant to have children. And I lost 2 of the 3, but I lost the first one at about 2 months. And then I continued to miscarry the second one between the 6th and the 8th month. And I was grateful that I had one, but I didn't know what was going to happen. And there's lessons there for everybody. Again, we wrote it into our plan. As devastating as it was for me, I was grateful that I had one child out of the 3. There was lessons in there for the doctors. The doctor at the time apparently had a drug addiction and offered to buy my child for $10,000 after knowing what I had gone through. Yeah. He ended up getting caught, basically, and going to jail. But there's lessons, it's all part of a plan.
Yeah.
It's all part of a plan. You don't know the reason. Maybe the lesson is for the doctor, not you. Maybe it's, you don't know who the lesson is for. But that soul knew that it wasn't going to be staying here long. It knew before it goes back. And I found that on the average, we reincarnate about every 350 to 400 of our years. Okay. So it's about 3.5 to 4 years of our time is 1 year on the other side. That's about what it ends up being. And what's weird is that children continue to grow on the other side, and I'd have no idea why. Because they're souls. They can come across as anything they want. I think they do it so that we can recognize if I'm with a parent or I'm with someone, I can look at the age of the child and they're 12 and I can say, okay, did you have a child that passed about 35 years ago? And they can say, yeah. And I can say, okay, so that's the 12-year-old on the other side right now. I think that's why they do it. It's just correlation for me. So I can make sure that they understand who the soul is that I'm talking with. It's on the other side.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense as well. What are some of the key things that you would like someone grieving who is listening right now to know?
So the first thing they need to know is if you're grieving, they're grieving. They're stuck. They cannot go on the other side, enjoy being free of their body or free of their pain, or just enjoy the love and it's just amazing over there. They cannot enjoy it if you're grieving. If you're grieving, they are stuck right beside you. If you're crying, they're crying with you. When I'm bringing them through to the other side, if they're standing too close to me and they're crying, I start crying. I start taking on everything because it's all energy. So they're right there with you. They want you to be happy. They're happy. When you can be happy, they can be happy. They're always going to be around you. All you have to do is think of them or say their name and they'll show up immediately. And I have some of my clients that have, they've learned how to communicate with them on a regular basis on the other side. So I have a couple of them that have worked out a yes and no system with lights. One of them does it with a night light. Another one does it with a light in the living room. One of them, it's his mom. So if he's got questions, he'll ask her, he'll be, hey, Mom, what do you think about this girl? I kind of met her. I kind of like her. Let me know yes or no. And she'll blink the nightlight in the bedroom.
That's cool.
Her husband will ask her the same questions and, same thing. She'll blink the nightlight. I have another one who passed away with 3 young little girls and they're getting older now. And, same thing. He'll blink the light in the living room to answer the questions, yes or no. And I have another one because, again, their energy. Some of them learn quickly how to manipulate their energy. Some of them seem to be much stronger than others. But I have one who actually operates her fiance's cell phone and leaves him messages on the cell phone. The most beautiful messages come through the cell phone. It's just incredible.
Wow. Yeah, that is pretty special. And I guess it's allowing yourself to believe, isn't it? And just to trust and just...
It's trust. Yeah. So again, one of the lessons in my book is trust and communication. You have to be able to trust in order to communicate, and you can't communicate with someone your deepest, darkest secrets if you don't trust, right?
Yeah.
You have to trust that there's a higher power. There's only one, no matter what you want to call it. Buddha, Krishna, God, source energy. There's only one.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it. And we're all energy. And it's very easy for them, once they've gone into the light, to come and be with you. And, I had one mom, she was grieving so bad. She was going to the cemetery every single day. And this child had passed. It'd been a couple of years. And, excuse me, I'm fighting a cold here.
No.
And he came through and said, listen, he goes, tell her to stop going to the cemetery. I'm not there and I don't want to go there because she's there. So he said that there was a cement bench near a river with a lot of daisies or daffodils or something that she used to go to with him when he was young. And she goes, yeah, down in the river. I go there once in a while. He goes, well, that's where he wants you to go and sit. And he'll come and sit right next to you on the bench. But he does not want to be hanging around the cemetery. There are a lot of spirits in the cemetery that are stuck here, that are not in the light. Yeah. And a lot of evil ones in the cemetery. It's not the nicest place. So they're not there. Trust me. They are only there if you show up to grieve them. They don't want to be forgotten, though. Don't take that as a, don't not go decorate the grave or put flowers on it, or nobody wants to be forgotten, and they don't want to be forgotten either. They used to say, set an extra dinner plate at the table, right? And they'll come join you for dinner. And it's very, very true, because now they live vicariously through us. So when you're sitting there and like Thanksgiving dinner and the family's all there and you're enjoying the turkey, you better believe they're right there with you enjoying it. They are.
That's a good thing.
That brings them joy. That's
a good thing to remember. Just before we go into your book, one last question. How do we, or people that have had it tough here or still have lessons to learn, do they need to do healing on the other side?
Every archangel has a soul group. Millions of people in every soul group. And those are the people that we reincarnate with each time when we come back. So those are the people that we owe karma to, and then we collect karma to, and when we want to help. And the angels sit down with the people that are going to reincarnate, and they have to go through all kinds of things with them to figure out, what are you going to do? What do you want to learn? What lessons do you still need? Who do you want to help? Who do you owe karma from a last lifetime? And if they had committed suicide before they can ever get to that point, they have to pretty much go into therapy with the angels and the archangels and guides on the other side as well. A lot of the ascended masters. So ascended masters they're spiritual. They were human, not necessarily human. They walked the earth, because Ganesh is a deity from the Indian culture, and he was an elephant, and he is an ascended master on the other side. And yes, we can reincarnate into animals as well. Absolutely. And they have to work with them on the other side so that they don't come back to commit suicide again.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess that's good for us to know, because I think sometimes people commit terrible things on this earth plane.
Well, it's interesting, because as horrible as some of the crimes are that people commit here, the only people that are not in heaven are the ones that have taken a life and have no remorse. Those are the only people that I have not been able to bring through or locate, and I believe they're in hell.
Ooh, okay.
Anybody else? They're in heaven, believe it or not. They're in heaven. I brought them through. They're not always remorseful either. I brought through a father for a girl once who, he was terrible. He would rape her as a child. He would beat her. He was an alcoholic. And if they're a jerk here, they're a jerk there still. They don't just change. And he came through, and he was belligerent, and he was swearing at me and blaming her and blaming her mother. He had not learned anything, nothing.
Wow.
And it'll be a while before he comes back, I'm sure. But we do learn our lessons faster here than on the other side. But I had to have him leave, because I wasn't going to be spoken to at that. He had no remorse. He wasn't going to say he was sorry. She was not going to get the closure she wanted from him.
Yeah.
He had not changed.
It's interesting you say that, because my mum passed when I was 23. And for many years, she would come through with her back turned to me. Like, we did not get on very well at all. And there was a lot of stuff there. A couple of years ago, obviously, she'd finally reached that point where she could understand why I was the child I was. And then she said, I always thought that all those traits were, I don't know how she described it. I think she described it as, weak traits. But she said, I've realized now that those were your strengths, because I was hypersensitive. I felt everything. I cried easily. I questioned stuff, and I lived in perpetual fear probably. But she never got me. She never got me as a child, and honestly, and as a teenager. So
it takes time, even on the other side. I had a younger sister that I was her legal guardian for at least 20 years of her life. And she hated me for it because I was the one that had to impose the rules on her like a parent. And she had mental illness. And when she died, we weren't really getting along. And she did come through a couple of times, but not a lot. And it took her about a year of our time, I think. No, took about 3.5 years, about 3 years, something like that, which would have been about a year on the other side. And she came through to apologize to me.
Yeah.
And she said she'd been working on herself on the other side. And she understood that, she was very jealous of me. And that was the reason that she acted the way she did. And that she loved me very much. And that she didn't want to come back and have to relearn what she didn't learn here. She doesn't want to have to repeat that again. So she was going to try to work it all as much as she could on the other side before she comes back again.
And that is really good for us as well, because I always thought, I didn't really care if Mum never liked me or forgave me or whatever. I just thought that is what it is. I'm not going to care about it too much. Actually, when she did come back through and she did apologize and I did get that understanding, that was like a huge weight lifted from my shoulders.
Because we always think it's something we did. We think it's our fault. That's why. There were parents, love them or hate them. They could be, Hitler. But still, you get one set of parents. That's it.
Yeah, that's important.
And you have to remember they came here for a reason. I would not be the person that I am today if I didn't have the abusive parents that I had. But, I made amends with them while they were still alive and actually took care of both of them in their old age. They both died at 93, the same age, the same day, 1 year apart.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah,
there's no accidents. There's no
you
accidents.
just took the words out of my mouth. So let's get into your book. So you've written several books. Why did you need to write All's Fair in Love and Karma?
So people were coming to me when my abilities opened up most people want about a relationship. Am I going to get married? Am I going to get divorced? What's with this guy? So I was divinely led to create a 7-week online program called the Relationship Mastery Program. And I geared that towards people that were having difficulties in their relationship, maybe getting divorced. And several people who were on the verge of suicide found me. And it's a 7-week course. I teach them how energy works, how to get in touch with their soul. I only work with one person in the relationship because there's always a leader and a follower. And it only takes one person to make or break a situation. For every action, there's an equal or greater reaction. When you change, everything changes. So everyone that went through the program, their lives became absolutely amazing. But I discovered that they were all learning the same 5 lessons. Hence the reason that I wrote the book, All is Fair in Love and Karma. And it lays out, it's 5 steps to relationship mastery. And the first lesson that everyone has to learn is self-worth. And it's not self-esteem. It's not value. That's what other people put on you. Self-worth is the understanding that you are the only one on the face of this earth. How special are you that they thought that it was so important to have you here? That's self-worth. Okay. It is not selfish or narcissistic to put yourself first. It's where everything else comes from. If you cannot take care of yourself, you won't be here to take care of anybody else. It's that simple. Okay. The next lesson is trust and communication. And again, you have to trust someone enough to be able to open up. You have to be able to let someone know your wants and your needs, because we just don't know by osmosis, right? And not everybody's psychic like me. And even sex is just another form of communication. If you can't communicate outside the bedroom, you'll never communicate inside the bedroom. And you have to trust that there is a higher power and there is a plan. And that everything that's happening, it's not happening to you, it's happening for you. It's happening for your highest and best. Because everybody on the other side wants to see you succeed. That's their goal. See you happy, see you succeed. Okay? unconditional love. And that's a tough one for a lot of people. You know, people have nasty divorces and I don't want to see him again. I wish he would drop dead, blah, 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 blah. Well, how about we look at what you benefited from? Did you get children out of it? Did maybe you have, you know, a few years of real joy and, you know, maybe a new job or a home or something? You have to look at what came out of that. Okay. And let them go with love. And it's not making yourself a martyr. Oh, my husband beat me. I have to stay with him because of unconditional love. No, 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 no. That's not what it means. It means you can love him. I wish you well, but I cannot stay with you. You don't bring me joy.
Mm-hmm.
And let him go. And that feeds right back into your self-worth, right? If you have self-worth, you're not going to stay in that situation either. All these lessons, they keep entwining and reinforcing each other. Okay. Then there's money and balance. Well, money is energy. That's why it's called currency. And it's what we use in this 3D world to make sure that everything is in balance. Everything in the universe has to stay in balance. You have the yin and the yang. You have the night and the day, left and right, happy and sad. Everything has to have a balance. So the money will show you if you're out of balance. We don't walk into a grocery store and plop $10,000 down on the counter to buy a gallon of milk, right? Not yet, anyway.
Hopefully,
but there
never.
has to be but that has to be an even exchange, okay? And that's what we use. I mean, before money, there was a barter system. Same thing, okay? If you're going to give a shovel, and maybe you'll get a pickaxe in return. But for everything that you give, you have to get. It has to stay in balance. And then money also highlights self-worth as well. You know, a lot of people are completely out of balance because all they do is work to earn the money and save the money. And then they don't even spend the fruits of their labor on themselves because they don't value themselves enough. They have no self-worth, right? So again, we go back to each lesson reinforcing the next one. And then the last lesson is patience. And we live in a society where everyone wants instant gratification. We want it now. We want it yesterday, right? And it doesn't work that way. You get things in the time that they're supposed to come. So you have to have the patience and the trust and know that once you've put something out to the universe, they're working on it already. You don't even have to ask a second time. It will show up when it's supposed to.
Yeah.
And when you know that and have the patience and the trust, it happens. I could tell you story after story. People want to go to my website and listen to some of the stories and my blogs and things.
Yeah, I highly recommend that.
It's crazy how the universe works. It's the law of attraction. Yeah. We're like magnets. So you're either repelling or you're attracting at any given time. And when you're balanced, the law of attraction stays. A lot of people can get the law of attraction to kick in, right? So things start magnetizing into their life. But then it stops cold. They don't know what they did wrong because they're not balanced. Your energy has to be balanced. That way the highs aren't so high and the lows aren't so low. And everything keeps flowing through your life on an even keel. And it's just amazing.
So how do we keep balance then?
It's a process. That's why it's a 7-week program.
Yeah.
It's a process.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's also getting in touch with your soul. You have to get in touch with your soul to be able to balance your energy. You have to shift your energy first. Okay. Most people here are on a lower vibration. You have to shift your energy to a high vibration. So the people that go through the program, the first thing that happens, it's like a little switch. When they finally get what I'm teaching, their energy shifts and we're practically peeling them off the ceiling. But that's when you have to come down and balance, because if you don't balance, you're going to crash. You know what it feels like. Now we balance. If you don't balance, you crash, because for every high, there's a low.
So do we need to learn each of these 5 love languages or love lessons really each time we reincarnate? Or sometimes are we only here to learn one? How does that work?
It depends. So everybody doesn't have to learn them all. There are some people that maybe they have patience. They have a patience of a saint, right?
Yeah.
But boy, they can go through money like there's no tomorrow.
Exactly.
So most people are coming here to learn at least one or more of the lessons, if not all of them. And it is possible because the program that I put together ends up teaching all of these 5 lessons, and they learn all 5 lessons.
Yeah. Let's talk about fear now and the role of fear in all of this, because that's what keeps us at that lower vibrational level, isn't it? And it keeps us paralyzed sometimes. What's happening there?
So, the opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is fear.
Mm.
It's fear. You cannot love and fear at the same time. Okay. And again, we are not this body. We are flesh and bones on the outside. We're a soul on the inside. But we have a brain in our head, right? Most people. Your brain is nothing more than a computer. It helps you process all the information that comes into you. Okay. If you're listening to your soul and your soul is telling you something, your brain will help it follow through with it. Okay. But if you're just listening to your brain and you're not listening to your soul, your brain has a specific job. Your brain's job is to protect you. How does it do that? It does that by creating fear. So most people are making their decisions in fear. And when they do that, they're always questioning themselves. Should I have done that? Should I have done that? Should I have done it another way? That's because you're making the decision with your head. When you make the decision from your soul, that's a knowing. You make that decision. You don't question it. You just do it. And it works out the right way 1,000% of the time. You don't question it.
And that's just like listening to your gut instinct,
That's pretty much what it is. Your gut instinct is your intuition, which is your psychic ability. And so most of your soul is not in your body. Your soul is way too big for this body. So you have some stuffed in here, and then you have the aura that people talk about over your head. That's the part of your soul that's right over your body. And then the majority of your soul is actually in the 5th dimension, and it is orchestrating the timing of all the events that happen in your life. And it's also funneling the information down through you if you're listening to your soul.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a lot happening in the world as we speak. What percentage do you estimate that people have an awareness that they do need to just listen to their intuition and let that guide them, as opposed to it operating solely from their brain and their fear and what they've been conditioned with?
So we're moving into a mass awakening in the world right now. And what's happening in the world, just like your balance plays out with money because it's 3D, you have good and evil playing out on the political field because that's where the power is controlled. Okay. But it's really a war of good and evil. And what's happening is a mass awakening of the populace around the world that everything that's been happening is not reality. What they've been told all their life is not reality. They've just been puppets, basically, and slaves. And again, we are here playing a role. This is a play. This is absolutely a play. You go to sleep at night and your soul goes wherever it wants to go and talk to whoever it wants to talk to. But when you wake up in the morning, now you've got to play the part that you wrote into the script of whatever it is, whether you're a mom or whether you're a corporate lawyer or you're a politician, whatever the role is that you wrote into play. But there is a mass awakening and people are starting to get in touch with their soul more here, which is a good thing because, everything has to stay in balance, right? And right now it's out of balance. The pendulum is always swinging. Right now there's more evil in the world than there is good. So it needs to swing back. And the only way it can swing back is when people are aware of what's happening and start getting in touch with their soul. And it's happening. It's happening with
And
masses.
I think that's a reason of the pandemic as well, that was a real shift for a lot of people in consciousness, becoming aware of what it was like to spend time with their family, good or bad,
Well, and you still have it was also a depopulation plan. And you still have a lot of people that are in complete denial and they aren't going to see it. They aren't going to recognize it. They're not going to equate the myocarditis or the heart attacks to it because they're not supposed to. Those are the people that for whatever reason are not going to wake up. They didn't choose to wake up when they came this time. They chose to play the part, the antagonist, whatever. They chose to play that part this time around on Earth. And maybe a lot of them just chose to take the exit early. And those are the ones that, that are passing.
I tell you, it helps.
There aren't any accidents.
It helps us understand too that, that we don't need to argue with those people. We don't need to prove our point to those people or try and change their perception, because we're not aware of why they came here, what their soul plan was, and how they're executing it. All we need to worry about is what we're doing. Are we being true to what we...
There's a yes and a no to that, because we are also here to help one another. Okay. That's one of the biggest reasons that we come here, is to help each other. No man is an island. No one makes it alone in this world, ever. As much as people think they've done things on their own, they haven't. There's people helping all over the place. And we're here to help each other. So if you can try and enlighten someone and try to explain to them what's happening, that's the best that you can do. You've done your part. If they refuse to look, or refuse to listen, refuse to hear it, you've still done your part. Yeah. That's the best that you can do. You've tried to help. Doesn't mean they're going to accept your help.
And that's why perhaps some people in domestic violence relationships and that stay until they reach a stage where they know that they can no longer face that anymore, that they need to make the changes for themselves.
Well, usually, so that would be an awakening that happens. Okay. And again, we wrote it into our plans. If they were supposed to figure it out earlier, they would have.
Okay. So is that a codependent relationship where they avoid the...
It could very well be. So again, we're back to the lessons, right? We're back to, maybe it's a self-worth lesson that they have to learn. And I highlighted in the book that if you don't learn your lesson, you're just going to keep repeating the same relationship type over again with the same type of people. I mean, you may not recognize it, but your friends might say, oh my God, she looks just like your ex-wife. Well, guess what? They didn't learn the lesson the first time. So now they're going through the exact same thing with someone else, very similar, because it's the same lesson that they didn't learn the first time.
Yeah.
You'll keep repeating it until you learn the lesson. And when you learn the lesson, there's 3 different types of relationships. There's the twin flame, which is extremely rare. And I'm not even going to get into it. It's that rare.
Yep.
There's too much misinformation out there. It's not the Notebook. It's a very difficult relationship. But then there's the karmic relationship, and there's lots of karmic relationships out there. And a karmic relationship never really feels good. It feels like there's something missing. It feels like you're waiting for the other shoe to drop. Okay. But you're drawn together to learn a lesson or to teach a lesson. And when one or the other person learns the lesson, the relationship ends immediately. And you wake up one morning, you're like, why do I have this person in my life? If you both learned the lesson, it ends amicably. If only one of you learned the lesson, it ends, but not amicably. And there's millions of karmic relationships. It could be with your boss. It could be your best friend. It could be, anybody that you have a karmic relationship with. And it's the same thing with a soulmate. You have thousands of soulmate relationships out there. Your dog could be a soulmate relationship. Your child could be a soulmate relationship. And they're there to teach you as well, or you teach them, but it's also to afford you some love and comfort while you're learning. That's what those are for. And a soulmate relationship feels comfortable. It feels good right off the bat, like you've known each other forever. And they can last a long time, or they can end. It really depends on what you've written into your soul plan.
That's such a good place for us just to ease out of this conversation, because I could just see us going on and on and on. This is such brilliant information that you're sharing with us today, and I really, really value it. I always end up finishing my interviews off with 3 questions. So the first question I have for you is, what is the best thing that has happened to you so far today?
Today, oh my God, being able to let that woman know that the person she was looking for had passed, and moving him into the light. That was the best thing for me.
What a beautiful purpose you have.
That helped me move.
What is something that you are grateful for?
My children. They bring me so much joy. They really do. They light up my life. They're older, they're married, they've got kids, but still they bring me so much joy. Very proud of them. Very proud.
And I know you have all this wisdom and understanding and knowledge, but do you still have moments in your day that, we have an expression here, turn to custard, where things go a little bit dark? Do you have moments in your day like that? And if so, how do you pivot out of those?
So not very often. And I will tell you that a lot of people that have had near-death experiences want to commit suicide when they come back because they cannot get that feeling back.
Oh, yeah.
So they can get the feeling back. If they get in touch with their soul, they can get the feeling back. So when I start having any of those moments, I immediately start to meditate and get in touch with my soul. And I'm right back there again. And and the love just pours through and I trust and I know and everything gets better from there.
I love that. That's such a good way to deal with that. So we're going to have all your links in the episode notes and how people can get hold of your book, All's Fair in Love and Karma, 5 lessons.
The 5 steps.
Yeah, that's it. Steps. I was thinking lessons, steps.
And it just came out in Audible for anybody that doesn't like to read.
Audible's fantastic, isn't it? I often
and I had a British woman read it. I just absolutely loved her voice.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Very nice to listen to.
Yeah. So just share with us very quickly what you're up to now. What are you doing?
I'm doing a lot of interviews, radio, podcasts. I'm starting to schedule speaking engagements. Businesses to teach the employees how energy works and how to improve sales, how to improve customer relationships. And things have gone down so much with the economy that we've got. Businesses that have been struggling are looking for ways to improve quality, improve employee relationships. And it's all about the energy.
Oh.
It's all about the energy. So they would understand how the energy works, even when they go home to their wife and their kids. When they understand how the energy works, they learn how to not trigger them. So then they don't trigger their families. They're happier at work. When they come into work and they don't trigger their coworkers, they're happier, right? When they understand that, why they're there and what it is they're accomplishing, they can enjoy their job much more.
Yeah.
And when they understand that they're helping someone, and you're not selling them toothbrushes, you're selling them, hygiene, right? You're selling them a way to improve their life, right? It's all about perception. So when they understand what's behind what they do, it really makes it more fulfilling for everyone and everyone benefits.
Absolutely. Just having knowledge is power, isn't it? That understanding why we're here. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, June, what an absolute pleasure to spend this hour with you, sharing those wonderful insights that you have, not only about connecting with our loved ones, but also about how we can go on to improve the relationships we have, both here and on the other side. I think that's really, really important. And I am so grateful and appreciate you. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you for having me. Thank you to the listeners.
Thanks for listening. I hope you got some real value from this episode. If there's a topic you'd like covered, click on the beautifulsideofgrief@gmail.com link or go into the beautifulsideofgrief.com website where you can also leave a review. To get notified of new episodes, hit the subscribe button. And if you know of somebody who could benefit from this episode, please share. And until next time, please be kind to you and take good care.